Okay.
There we go. It's official. You've arrived.
Full moon and all.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh my
And
goodness.
the yellow submarine never pulls into port.
Okay. Now.
Now we
Well,
can
Rick-
leave the station.
Who's at the helm here?
Yeah, right.
Everybody.
And who's this new character on board here? We haven't met before. So we started early, about an hour ago.
Mhm.
Yeah,
No audio.
without sound.
Without
But
sound.
now I hear everyone. That's good.
Mhm.
Now we can get to meet Rick officially. Now that we're all
Yeah.
together, we'll meet him officially.
Well,
And I don't now that I'm not seeing, I'm seeing one person at a time. So I see Dwayne now. The couple is Sophia, and then I don't know his name.
Steve.
Steve. Okay. And then Steve and I were just visiting a little bit earlier when we first got our sound in, and realized that he went to Calgary from Austin. And
No,
that's where
we went to Vancouver Island from
Oh, to
Austin.
Vancouver. Okay, to Vancouver. Okay, Vancouver Island from Austin, and that's where you are then right now. Okay,
Right.
okay, and then and so we in introducing myself, I explained to Steve that I was a teacher here in Austin for more than 40 years with medically fragile, nonverbal students. And that's actually going way back into my 20s would be how I got into astrology personally, was through my work and having students who were living in medical facilities without access to families and unable to speak. And I used astrology a lot as means of picking up on, feelings or
Nice.
ideas for communication. And that's and so that would be, and then I'd mentioned to him that I was at the harmonic convergence in, I guess that was 87 in at Chaco Canyon, while you guys, Dwayne mentioned being to the west of Calgary, I think, in the last video that I watched. And the other thing too, and I didn't mention that, but I was at the total eclipse of the sun in Mexico City in, I guess that was July 11th of 1991, about 3 weeks after my middle grandson was born. But at that time, the day before, I was at Teotihuacan, and then the day of the eclipse was at the Museum of History, and where the calendar stone was, and then went and observed, was during the eclipse at the Zocalo, at the temple. I guess it was built on top of the Templo Mayor there in the square in Mexico City, with over 1 million people present at that moment. And that was total darkness then. So this will be, I haven't seen a total eclipse until this one coming up. And I'm going to hush up now, but that just gives a sense of, and I've listened to a couple of your, to the last video you did, and then a little bit earlier this morning, I was listening to one, I guess maybe done late December, early January, maybe, where you guys were looking at your charts more. And one other thing I'll mention that I found interesting, Barbara, and that's that your moon is at 20 degrees Pisces, and that's where my north node in my natal chart is at 20 degrees Pisces. So I find that, and I didn't know that before, but I find that interesting in terms of to be arriving right now in direct contact. This is our first direct voice to voice contact.
Yes, it is.
And so I would say the North Node has guided me to the same degree. And then I was also looking at the Sabian symbols and so forth at 20 degrees Pisces, etc., etc., and really have enjoyed your videos, but I'm way behind in terms of lots to catch up on. I think all of us, it just depends. Life is so complex that we can go, we get a tiny bit of wherever we look, but there's so much more to always see.
Right.
Anyway.
Yeah.
And where are you physically located?
Thank you, Rick.
Thank you for joining.
Yeah, welcome.
Welcome.
And Rick, where are you right this moment?
Right this moment, I'm in my in my home in Austin, Texas.
Austin. Great.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Wow.
Rick, I just want to ask you are on your phone? You are on your phone?
Yes, I'm on my telephone.
Yes, so if you just scroll it, then actually, eventually you can see each of us, because I know Zoom on the phone just gives you a little clip, as you said, that you only see one square at a time. But if you,
Yeah.
Barbara, you know that you need
I
to
can
kind
see.
of
Well,
scroll
I'm
either left or right.
okay. I'm sliding, and I'm seeing more notes, apps, whiteboard, record, share, reactions, chat, stuff. I'm not seeing that any other options.
Maybe Barbara, can you help me? You
Pardon?
you are on your
It sounds like you can you see all of us, Rick?
No.
just one person.
I'm see whoever's speaking. I see now. I see Barbara. A
Oh,
second
okay.
ago,
Yeah.
I saw. Now I see Steve
I
and
guess you need to
Sophia.
change it from speaker to gallery.
Let's see if I can do that.
I don't know how to do that either.
Oh no, it's just so I'm afraid to mess with it too much. So
Yeah.
it's good with me. I
What's
should just
today?
listen, and then when
Retail
each
house.
person talks, it'll zoom in on them.
Yeah, that's
you're-
right.
You're on your phone too then, Barbara? Is it a phone you're
Yes.
on as well?
Yes, I'm on the phone also.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I have everything installed on my computer since I have a new webcam, but somehow it didn't work. So
And that was
I
here
gave-
too. I have an iMac, but it, and I
Didn't
tried
work.
getting it, and it started messing up. So I went at the very last minute. So I came to my phone, and
Yeah.
the phone is at least making it. So
Yeah,
I feel
cool.
honored
It's
to
very
be
cool.
in the presence of you people.
Yeah, so I think you have to be here because it feels so, because Steve is also with the axis and with the Pisces. He has very similar Pisces degrees, so we are all meant to be together, I think, today.
Yes, and I like it that we all have Leo,
Exactly.
Pluto and Leo within varying degrees. I'm guessing I'm the older one because the video I was listening to before this started today, what everybody was showing their charts or talking about them, and you guys were all at later degrees. I'm at 19 degrees Leo, I believe, 19 or in my moon is at 20 degrees Aquarius, opposite Leo. I mean, my Pluto and Leo, and then with again a triangle up to to Uranus in Cancer, I believe it is. But anyway, I'm going to hush and listen for a while.
So what year were you born?
1950.
So
you're younger.
I'm 49.
You are younger.
You're 49?
Yeah.
As am I. 49.
Okay.
Yeah, we were both.
Okay. And so,
Okay.
some of what I think maybe what I was getting a little confused on too at the video that I was watching was you were describing the Sabian symbols at certain degrees, but then you were also describing the hexagonal correlation, and I didn't quite get that.
Yeah.
If I'm remembering that correctly.
Takes a little while to integrate that that piece.
Well, yeah, I'm just trying. One of the things that I've just I've spent recent years paying more attention to the Chandra symbols, but then during this last year, I've realized that it was important to me to expand my awareness of the towards this, because I see the Sabian symbols. It just depends on who's explaining and who's referring, and like you relate much more directly to the Sabian symbols, it seems.
Yeah.
But at the same time, and then Barbara, at the video I was watching, you were asking Barbara about her connection to Tarot, and Barbara was saying that the Sabian symbols didn't speak to her exactly.
Yeah.
And then from my perspective, be it Sabian or be it Chandra, what I really value about them is it's that symbolic, it's just a statement, and it's a statement that has come through an individual who would be, I would say, in a frame of mind like Barbara would be when she's doing Tarot. When you do Tarot, you kind of go into that receptive frame of thinking. And that's what I find with the Sabian symbols or the Chandra symbols, is you get this abstract picture, but then that allows itself to function with you individually. Yep. To let your own inner instincts begin to speak or to answer to that abstraction.
Right on.
And then that's, to me, that's when I listen to Barbara doing Tarot, that's what I start picking up on, is she's going into that receptive part of her energies, and that's, to me, where, from my own perspective, again too, with nonverbal children, that's where I've learned a lot of astrology, and a lot of what's going on with people is just to separate myself from what seems obvious, and instead open up to this inner place that you can start connecting on. Whatever those people that brought forth the Sabian symbols or the Chandra symbols, they had to go to that place for that information to come through them, to receive it. But hush, I need to listen. That's what I think.
A good segue to go over to Barbara, but that would be my
yes. Yeah.
What?
Well, he's mentioning you and the way that you open up, and I know you.
Yeah, I told the other day that for me, these Sabian symbols are not clicking so much. They are too much in the mind for me, because when I'm reading the cards or something, I open up. I cannot be in my mind. Or also, like, when I can, if somebody describes it, and I can sort of feel into it, but I don't, sometimes it's weird. For me, the explanations are weird. It's like the I Ching, the I Ching also was very distracting. I mean, in my beginning of trying out different ways of communicating with the I Ching, it just toppled my mind. It was too, like, there's a mountain and a tree, and there's somebody going and doing something, and you can put so much into it. And I didn't get a direct line, a direct communication. Like, when I'm doing the tarot readings, sometimes I start talking very slow, because I'm opening up, a channel in myself. So my ego goes in one side, and then this energy sends pictures, which I'm sort of describing. And that's the reading. That's the tarot reading. And I like to do it because I can surprise myself. If this makes sense.
I
because
just see it
sometimes I'm surprised about it myself.
I think surprising. It's the surprising energy comes through, but it seems like it's the symbol, the Chandra or Sabian symbols would be like something like to associate. You hear it, but then you associate what you hear. You open up to your inner feelings about it. It's like it triggers a thought, or it triggers that. For me, it triggers the inner.
Yeah.
It triggers me to open up more to my inner thinking.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
it's just but then that's everybody's. One of the other things that and this is just something to put out there that I think about a lot, and that would be like the idea of masculine and feminine energies, and I think that we all have the balance of everything on one side or another, but within a lot of what I think about is right brain and left brain thinking, and
Mm-hmm.
people that are left-handed. I'm left-handed, so I'm more like right brain dominant, let's say, and people that are right-handed might be more left brain dominant, but everybody has to coordinate between both right and left hemispheres of their brain. But a lot of the right brain patterning of thinking might be more the so-called feminine versus the left brain being more masculine, and or the right brain, which a left-handed person would be right brain dominant, then that would get a lot of the of that energy,
Told you
that
not to. That's okay. Yeah.
energy from the invisible spheres.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
hear
was
you.
thinking about that too, because there's a lot of astrologers, especially men, who are using the Sabian symbols with a lot of, they're inspired by it. So it must be a
Yeah.
very feminine energy, the Sabian symbols, because it's hidden. It's not, it's not so obvious what it really says, but they can interpret, they can put, they could, there, for them it's easier to put something in there. So maybe these things are two totally different ways to connect. For me, the Sabian symbols don't turn me on that much, because maybe I'm bringing forward my own symbols.
Mhm. Yeah, you could write your own. Yeah.
Right. They might seem to distract you from what you're personally
Yeah,
receiving.
yeah,
And for me, it's like as many people as there are, everyone, rather than to get distracted, I get each individual activates a certain sense of who they are, and then that triggers within me my
yeah.
thinking. That's how I get my thinking triggered, is through.
Yeah.
So I don't find that distracting. I find it almost like help it. Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, so for the Sabian symbol, like in relationships, so Sophia and I share a 20 degree, and it's a clear mountain stream. So
Okay.
from there, as an example, then I can go, wow. Of course, that's one of our favorite places to be. And the clarity and creating clarity in our relationship, and letting the debris go downstream, and just
Yeah.
different things arise for each Sabian symbol that I look at in my chart. I can
Yeah.
apply it in different ways or different relationships. So
And
I enjoy them.
you can also look back at them at different times,
Right.
and your energies at the time,
Right.
it triggers your unique energy at that moment when you go back to it.
Yeah. And know what was going on. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
And gaining insight from that.
And even, I like, as I look at what's going on astrologically, to start to consider different things happening at specific degrees, and then I'll pull out my books, be it the Sabian symbols or the Chandras, and kind of see what corresponds, or and then I think it's a little of all of it. You just extracting it all, and bringing it together brings a greater clarity to a moment.
Right, and I find that with Dwayne's work and overlaying the I Ching, I find the same thing. Then I can learn from that,
Yeah.
that ancient channeled knowledge of the
Yeah.
I Ching.
Yeah.
I go, wow.
That's real powerful, the ancient knowledge and the
Mhm.
stories, the mythology, the symbolism that's been, and then especially we go back just a little bit of time, and we didn't have the electronic world, and things had to be passed forward through word of mouth.
Right.
And then that, so there's lots of power from the person to person to person to every
Right.
individual that feeds into that passage of information.
Yeah, that's why they had the chanting in the temple.
Yeah. And the chanting
Make
is
sure
so
they
powerful.
repeated that knowledge
Yeah.
to carry it on. Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
Dwayne had a hand up.
Dwayne has his hand up. Yeah.
Dwayne, did you have your hand up? I saw your hand up.
Nope.
No?
Just stroking my beard.
No.
Stroking his beard.
Oh, he's still-
I thought you'd put your hand up earlier there,
Oh,
Dwayne, as
somewhere
well.
I did. Yeah, I can't remember what it was.
You can't
That's
remember
okay.
what,
You can put your hand up now.
it was a while back. You have to go back and think why you put your hand up. Hmm. Yeah. So what do we all think then about, here we are, full moon lunar eclipse, heading into solar eclipse. It seems like it's a pretty, a lot going on, a pretty intense time
Yes,
with it all.
definitely.
Yes, for me, I feel with Rick sharing the eclipse coming, and it's going to happen in Austin. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
For me, in a lot of this, the astrology and the different modalities, if I take the one solar eclipse that Sophia and I witnessed together, we stumbled upon it. So it's like stumbling upon this information and going, wow. So we land in Costa Rica and our friend meets us, and we notice everybody's got these paper glasses. And I'm going, what are all these Costa Ricans, what are all these people doing with these things? And she said, well, let's head towards the coast because the eclipse is going to be in 3 hours.
And you had no notion before that.
No.
Now that's talk about being guided or being,
Right.
My goodness. So you were there. How long had you been there before you realized you were 3 hours away from an eclipse?
Oh, just flew in, and we'd been up to the north part of Costa Rica, and we were headed south.
How long?
And so it was only day 2.
How long ago was that? What year was that? Do you remember?
Early in the 2000s.
Okay, wow.
The last, when it came across the whole world, suddenly the whole world was converging in Costa Rica to witness this, and we stumbled in. And Costa Rica, of course, it's cloudy. People came from all over the world. So we drive towards the coast, and half an hour before, the sky clears.
Yeah.
And we get this full view of the solar eclipse, and the whole feeling of suddenly we go into darkness.
Wow.
And,
that was my experience in Mexico City. Now I knew I was there specifically for it, but at the same time, Mexico City is very often cloudy and rainy, and they weren't the weather forecast was that it was going to get dark, but we wouldn't be able to see it. But then that day, several hours beforehand, the clouds parted, and by the time it came, it was totally, enough to see. It was absolutely clear and most amazing. And it's so, that is just amazing that you arrived right when you did without, I mean, that's just, you obviously were meant to be there. I mean, that's just,
Right.
was not an accident. I wouldn't
No, I don't
think.
think there's any accidents, and it was just
No.
moving
that's
through, and to feel that everything get silent.
Yeah.
Everything got silent when it happened, because it's
just
ending
to
in
happen
nighttime.
upon
All the
it.
birds, all the sounds. You have lots of
Yes.
sound of nature, and
Yeah. And
nature
the temperature,
suddenly
it gets
nature suddenly got
cooler
quiet.
and everything. I mean, it's just everything. And it
Mhm.
all happens so quickly. And then
Mhm.
it's that moment within the moment that's just like beyond
Zenith.
time.
Mhm.
And then you just happen into it. That's probably the most remarkable part, is that you just you just got there at the right time, because
Yeah.
you could be anywhere else in the whole planet and
Yeah,
it
there was
wouldn't have.
no logistics, no, oh, I hope it's clear, no,
Yeah,
wondering
And,
about it. It was just like, hey, here it
that's
is. Okay.
that's crazy.
Yeah,
That's
it was wild.
and Steve, did you say like it goes, I've never experienced one for sure, but did you say like nature, like all of nature, like the birds and it
Right.
goes quiet, there's
Yeah.
silence? It's like,
Yeah, they're just,
it's,
suddenly it's kind of just beyond dusk. But
the birds.
all the birds, everything just went quiet at that time.
But as it starts darkening, they start flying. I mean, they start acting. You start noticing that they're noticing something's up here,
Yeah.
something's different.
Yeah.
And then, but it does go, once it darkens, it just goes quiet.
Mhm.
But you can notice the birds and the animal, any sounds, just
Yeah.
being you can feel the sense of disorientation.
Yeah.
But
And then
then
it comes back again.
yeah, and it just, it's just, yeah, it's insane. It's crazy. You can't compare it to anything. That is so powerful that you got there at that moment. That's awesome.
Yeah. Just stumbling through.
Wow. that's the best stuff that comes to us. That's Uranus. Uranus must have been in a real powerful place at that point in time, because those are just the out of the blue surprise, unexpected surprises.
Now, Barbara, you've done a reading, have you not, for this eclipse?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Could you give us
Yes.
some highlights? Or is that
What?
I was going to say, could you give us any highlights of what you brought through, or is that it's kind of all wrapped up on in the video?
You had two cards at the end, Barbara, right? One
Right.
that you picked, and then you pulled one out of your Mayan deck.
Yes, I did. I pull out the Skywalker. The
Okay.
Skywalker, or Ben, the glyph Ben, was the most important goal we have to sort of all have together. And the card in the other reading, what the goal of the whole reading was the kind of the same energy, because it's the Skywalker is also surrendering to the heart energy in a way.
Okay.
And coming from your heart, talking from your heart, bringing up more empathy to each other, being kind to even little bugs, being more in the ah and oh moment of life. So you are sort of, the Skywalker is looking for, I mean, everybody can sort of try to see what they see as a Skywalker, because I see the glyph for like a connecting or bringing in energy which is prepared but not really yet manifested on Earth. So we bring it on, new projects, new people coming into a group like you, It's like this bringing on new energy, finding new combinations, and yeah, Skywalker. For me, it's like very heartful, very empathetic. So I sort of I put it in as the eclipse kind of cookie. And that was nice. That was kind of, and it has also this rose colory, flowery, like a rose. Like I also connected with you because of your garden, your magic garden. I have to mention your magic garden because that's how we sort of connected via Facebook.
Yeah,
Because the way you sort of deal with the flowers and the animals is the Skywalker energy, kind of. You know, it's
yeah,
like your garden is like a cosmic space which I was allowed to be in, and I was even able to talk to you, and uh, and it's so nice. All these energies there, and the anolis, there are like spirits in your
yeah. They
garden,
are. They're
and
powerful spirits. They're
and that's
related to iguanas, but they're
yeah,
like
but they're
about
relating to you.
they are well, and they know they live to be 5 or 8 years old, and they, you know,
They
and they're
know you very well.
they're territorial, and they'll see me out watering, and they come out, and they'll actually jump onto my body and climb on me sometimes, you
Yeah.
know,
So
and
so this is like this is for me also a Skywalker energy. This is like we are walking in the skies of other people, or in the skies. Like now with only the Facebook possibility, I was able to walk in your garden, and you picked up on my energy because you were working with these kids. So you're very psychic, and since we have this connection on the what was it, Pisces?
yeah, yes.
The Pisces
That's
connection, which
your
is very
moon and my north
sensitive.
node at 20 degrees
Yeah.
Pisces. That's interesting.
So yeah, and that's what I think in the future, like after this eclipse, everybody can do.
Yeah.
So I rounded it up so you guys can sort of understand what I saw. But maybe you guys have another explanation about Skywalker. Maybe Dwayne, you know, or you can put in some other aspects of the Skywalker, what you could see.
Well, what has surfaced on my little screen here is the Sabian symbol for the full moon, which
Cool.
is Libra 6. A man watches his ideals taking a concrete form before his inner vision. It seems to be along the lines of what you were saying, Barbara. You know, this notion of the kind of the archetypal,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
then
I mean,
it has
I
to
don't
come
mind.
through into concrete manifestation. And
Right
to get
on,
the
right on.
alignment
Yeah,
right,
you
know,
got
there's
it.
your
Yeah.
glyph. It's about getting that alignment so that heaven and earth unite.
Ah, nice, nice. It's exactly, yeah, yeah.
That's
Aligning with the energy of the other person, or aligning with your anolis in the garden, or like other people who live there in the garden, like all your favorite animals have like a certain place in there. So I love it. I love that.
aligning with
Rick, your this magic garden, is this a physical place we go to, or this is a temple of the imagination, or
it's a physical place. I live in a house that was built in 1950, the same year I was born. I was born in Brownsville, Texas, at the very southern tip of Texas, and out in the country near Boca Chica Beach. Boca Chica Beach is where Elon Musk is trying to send these giant rockets to go to Mars.
Wow,
And so
Skywalker.
he thinks he owns it now. Plus, then so I was born down there in 1950 when my house was way out in the country. then I've been in Austin for 50 years, and my house right now this month for 30 years. And so when I came here, it was kind of been still in the middle of nowhere, but the city of Austin has grown from like 300,000 a little over 50 years ago to well over 2 million in just that short amount of time. And so where I live has been surrounded. There was the movie called Up. It was animated, and the old man at the end of it, has been surrounded by everything that's moved in on him, and he creates balloons that lift the house off. But my garden, when I moved here, it was just like, nothing. There's nothing growing. It was just like empty, and the house was in a shambles. But I brought it all back together, and then as the city's grown up around it, and so now it's still the same house. It's this little country house that used to be way out in the middle of nowhere, and now it's got skyscrapers all the way around it, everywhere in all directions. But I've maintained the integrity of the house so that it's still, when you go in it and move around the yard, the gardens, you feel the energy that was here that many years ago. So to me, it's a magic spot. And then within the garden, I put plants and animals. Well, I've taken care of the animals and created its own little miniature ecosystem.
Wow.
And anyway, that's it. It's my spot in Austin. In Spanish, there's a word called solar. That's your place under the sun, and it's like my little mi solar, and it's but that's kind of
Yeah, sounds like an oasis.
I like
it. It is. It's very humble. It's very basic. It's very but I put my beauty. I put beauty into it. And that's what attracted me to this group of people. Barbara sent me a link to the couple of the videos, and I could just, listening to you guys as individuals, I could feel a lot of spiritual energy going on between you, and I found it real moving. So it's fun to be meeting each of you right now today.
Wow. So
It's nice to meet a Skywalker surrounded by skyscrapers.
Yeah. I have to ignore the skyscrapers and but tune into and that's it. We got to keep our focus on being able to skywalk wherever we go. And that having access to the deepest part of what we have within ourselves, the parts that understand Sabian symbols, or the parts that know how to read tarot cards. We have to tune into those elements within ourselves, and as long as we can, the rest of the world can do whatever it does, and everything will be just fine.
Wow.
Beautiful.
Yep, sounds good.
So glad to have you aboard.
Yeah, I'm glad. Do you have, I'm wondering what you have planned. Do you have anything planned for today that you were going to share, Dwayne?
No, I don't at all. I've been swirled up. I was 10 days in Calgary. I just got back last night, and they had a foot of snow, but I had 2 6-year-olds under my care. So that was quite engaging.
Are you anywhere near Peachland in BC?
Peachland is maybe a third of the way to Calgary from here.
Okay.
You have a friend there or family?
Well, I had a cousin who passed this last year. She was born like 3 days after I was born in 1950, but she was living in Peachland for some years.
Okay.
I was just curious.
Yeah. So general area. Yeah.
Okay. Are you west or east of? Are you
west of Peachland?
Closer to Vancouver.
Closer to those folks down there.
Steve and
Nanaimo.
Okay.
It's Nanaimo, right?
You're in the sagebrush country.
Yeah, that's right. And I'll tell you, yesterday I drove from Calgary where there was a foot of snow on my car.
I saw
Wow.
your
That
weather.
took a while to clean off just to get things going and unstuck, you know, to arriving here at home. And I had the experience that you were describing of Solari. It's like, this is my spot on the planet. And
Yeah.
we did ever feel good. And it's like
Yeah.
20 degrees Fahrenheit,
Mhm.
warm, you know, 50,
Wow.
60. So, yeah,
You got away from the serious cold.
yeah. But you know, all the while I was conscious because coming out of the last new moon session, there was this orientation towards, well, the Sabian symbol was a child innocently open to life's abundance. So that was the theme anyway. So
Yeah.
here, Spirit puts me right in the midst of my two grandchildren, well, actually three grandchildren, and one is much older. And yeah, what a wonderful immersion it was. You know?
Mm.
And very challenging
Wow.
on a personal basis. I mean, I went into it like, okay, I know there's this going on and this going on, and there's all this to contend with, but there's also this innocent little doorway that I'm moving through, and I'm going to
Yeah.
hold on to that
Wow.
as much as I can, you know, and enlarge.
And you're back to your personal sanctuary.
Yes, and which has never felt better, really.
Oh, good.
Calgary, you know, I grew up in Calgary when it was like 50,000 people. And now, I don't know, it's probably like Austin, you know, a couple of million. And it is the car culture. It's like, oh my God, you know, everything is automobile oriented. And you know, in the winter in Calgary, you get all this snow and you got all these vehicles, and it's like, it's just
Yeah. I was in Calgary in 1967 as a 16-year-old at the time, going on the way to Alaska from South Texas.
Oh wow!
And so it would have been much smaller way back then.
Yeah.
Mhm.
In 67, that was the Canadian centenary.
Centennial.
I graduated from high school with a 67 average. Mr. Canadian, you know, centennial.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
During the centennial, that's when I was traveling through there, they had the caravan of, well, they had trains and then caravans of semis that would be traveled through the country, and being way out on the Alaska highway, going towards Whitehorse, you could hear the boom, 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 boom from like 50 miles away, just blaring, you know, as those trucks would near. That's interesting time.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's for sure. How about you guys? Any this innocent child, Steve? You got your little guys popping out. You're giving birth to.
Yeah, I'm giving birth to little puppets. So on my Pisces birthday, on March 19th, we had a birthday party on Zoom with my granddaughter, our granddaughter of her 2-year birthday.
Oh,
and
wow.
I brought along Kopi and Franklin, and she just started to blow kisses to them.
Oh,
It was wonderful.
Wow.
So,
Steve, your birthday's March 19th?
Yes.
Because that's my grandfather, who was my closest person when I was young. He was born March 19th, 1881.
Wow.
And he grew up in the country with me in Brownsville, Texas, and taught me about the planets and the constellations and nature, and all of that was my grandfather from the 19th. And I guess this year the 19th was the equinox. Some years
Right.
it's 20th.
Mhm.
Just depends. Which is kind of a neat time. I mean, that's interesting to think of as a person's entrance into the world. But would be, do you know whether you were born, which side of the equinox you were born that year?
No, I don't. No, but that's good to check out.
Yeah, because you were either like the very tail end of winter or the very beginning of spring, but
Mhm.
somewhere, or you know, probably that little moment is probably all
Yeah.
but equivalent, a kind of a magical moment.
Yeah, so I was right on the cusp, so it was 14 hours before Aries, the 0 point.
Okay. You'd have
But I
to,
can go.
yeah, think about it and figure.
Yeah, thank you.
But that's very interesting. It's you know, that's just a real interesting place to time to be born, I think.
Yeah, the ending and the new beginning.
Yeah, yeah.
But with it's interesting how you were talking earlier about the masculine and the feminine and the right brain, left brain.
Yeah.
And I was on my puppet Zoom meeting this morning early because they are centered in Iceland, and so 7 hours was 7 a.m. this morning. So I was up Zooming early,
Oh, wow.
and the feedback they gave me today was, well, I'll bring them up. He said, start to use your left hand. And I said, oh, my goodness, I can barely carve with my right hand. And he said, no, this is about manipulating the puppets. So have them come up, use the left hand and the right hand. If you have two puppets, you need to learn to use both hands and find the balance
Mhm.
of using both sides.
Right on.
That's
Yes,
It seems so alive.
Right on.
So I have to learn to wave with both hands.
Wow.
Oh, cool.
That's great.
Because I wasn't sure, had we met, is it Franklin? Is that Franklin there? Because we met
Yeah,
Kopi.
I don't know if you've met Franklin yet.
No, we haven't met, I haven't met Franklin.
Hi.
Those eyes are just so penetrating. It's incredible.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, he's Kopi's ancestor from the 15th century. And
So what's
his
the connect?
name's Franklin because in Middle English, Franklin meant free man.
Oh, nice.
He was the first free man to be able to own his own land, his own little solar spot.
So how
Oh,
do you go about, how does the 15th century find its way into your expression? Like what's the?
Just because I saw the carving style that I used was making his whole outfit with chisel marks.
Yeah.
Plus his hair.
Okay.
And to me, it looked like a peasant, medieval
Gotcha.
look. So that's why I gave him the gloves and the boots.
oh, wow.
And then made him the ancestor of Kopi. And then Kopi asked, because Kopi's interested in making the world a better place. So Kopi asked Franklin, what can I do to make the world a better place? What did you do? And Franklin told him that Kopi has a lot more tools available to him than Franklin had way back then. So really it's not about so much the tools, but it's about the virtues. And so Franklin shared with Kopi the virtue of honesty, integrity, and vigilance. And with those three virtues, Kopi can help make the world a better place.
That's
So that's
very
what
nice.
they've shared together.
Vigilance? Is that what you said? Vigilance?
Diligence.
Diligence. Yeah, of course. Yeah, diligence. Yeah.
Oh, you can give him a hug.
Oh, that's very cool.
Yeah.
So
So it's
That's
Do you have
my,
other puppets?
I've really been able to enjoy and bring forward my monkey temple of Chuen, or the artist and the trickster. And it's really, really, I'm really finding it real fun to play with
very
these.
inspiring.
It's the archetypes relating to, and that's one of my favorite things about astrology is just tuning into such multiples of archetypes, and you can really do that with your puppets. You can just come up with more and more and more different variety.
Yeah.
And then they all have something to teach each other and to positively affect each other with. That's pretty neat too.
Yeah.
Not
It's
a lot of fun.
And I just love the group. It's international, it's a worldwide group of people that
Wow.
are creating puppets, and we share on Zoom, and it a lot of sharing from the heart, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, fun. And that's something that a lot of people, especially as they get older, forget about how, that child part of ourselves, how to have fun. And it's having fun is what keeps us young and what keeps us moving for always. And that's key to our to happiness. It's just having fun.
So a few days ago was International Puppet Day.
Awesome.
So I took Franklin out for his first out and about into the world. And I took him to the chiropractor's waiting room. And those same, I've talked about it earlier, the same two girls that were there for Kopi. And this was a different time of day. They showed up with their sister for her appointment. And then they got to meet Franklin. And one of the girls, I said, did you want to walk Franklin? And he was on a carpet. She was just drawing a mandala on the floor. And she said, okay. I showed her how to hold Franklin, and she walked Franklin on the carpet, and you could just see the thrill that they have. But it's really, as you're saying, Rick, it's the adults that suddenly see a guy sitting in the waiting room with a puppet on his knee.
Yeah. And then like the girls,
they go, what are we doing in this waiting room? And it just opens them up.
Yes,
instead of everybody just staring straight ahead.
It's also like the girls that show up in the waiting room at a different time than they saw you before.
Right.
It's just like you showing up in Costa Rica for the eclipse.
Right.
They just happened on it, and because of it, that experience becomes their own. And and so timing is, again, like, and you said that earlier, everything is in perfect time.
Yeah, the divine timing.
Yeah.
So the woman at the desk took a photo of Franklin on his first day out, and then I look on Facebook, and they've used Franklin inviting people to come to the office.
Awesome.
And to book their next appointment and get their adjustment. So I put a quote underneath on Facebook. I said, come see Dr. Norm before you start getting stiff as a board. From the wooden puppet.
That is very cool.
And Franklin should be receiving some royalties for.
Yeah,
really?
Franklin asked me about that, but
really,
he was a celebrity on his first day out.
First day out. Wow.
Yeah.
And he might be world renowned in no time.
Yeah.
how go viral. He'll go viral.
Right.
Mhm.
So it's a lot of fun playing, as you say,
Yeah.
as an adult, remembering to play, and as Dwayne's saying with his grandkids, just that joy
Yeah.
of playing with them.
Yeah.
Oh, can I share a little story on that?
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
Because it worked so well. We're in the basement and I'm doing laundry, and there's all kinds of toys, and there's a small basketball, and as my basket of clothing became empty, I suddenly got this idea of us playing a basketball game. So I put the basket out on the floor, and then we measured off on each side an equal distance. And then the idea was that you have to shoot to get the ball in the basket. Well, this was so popular, like they just loved it.
Oh,
And then when Billy got home, you know, the papa, he gets involved.
Right.
He's having a blast too, you know. And my granddaughters is keeping score, you know, and they just, like, everybody just stepped right up and just merged. And it was so good because they had to, you know, adjust their shot, you know. We're encouraging them to focus, you know, and you know, it was fantastic. So
Yeah.
I highly recommend it.
Wow.
awesome.
That's the magic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I was
Play
having
and
way
have
more fun.
to
than
play
I
and have fun.
What was that, Steve?
To play and have fun.
Yeah.
And I just find this, like, who would think that the stage would be a waiting room? But it's so fun to go in there and, you know, where people are just in waiting, waiting.
Yeah.
That's a perfect place, though, in a waiting room, like, especially for kids or whatever. Anybody really is to, you don't think of really going, expecting to have fun while you're waiting for an appointment like that. But
yeah, isn't that funny?
that's very neat.
Mm-hmm.
That's a little gift you bring in with you when you bring your puppets. That's or just even your humor, your lighthearted self, you know.
Can I say something?
Please.
Yeah.
I want to connect it to the skywalker again.
Oh, good.
Because that's already a skywalking, what you're doing, Steve. Because, you know, this, well, maybe the skywalker is the artist. You know, maybe that's the creative, the person who's creative in a different way. And all this creative energy we are picking up is important to come in, because like we have to get distracted from dooms and grooms shit, you know, because there's too much war going on, you know. It's like we need to disconnect our minds and from fear. So my grandfather, he was in the First World War. He was a puppet player. So he was like you, Steve. He was making his puppets out of wood, very rough. If I get a picture of it, I can send it in the group. And he was making performances, and everybody loved it. And also he would play in the military, you know, people who were sort of and war focused. And my grandfather, he would always talk with this, like you with Kirby. He was like talking to the other people, he would saying, oh, so he would lose his personality and give it to the puppet. And it was so hard for us kids to ever talk to him, because we would always talk to this puppet, you know, because it's like he would communicate over that. So yeah, and that was his thing, what he did in the First World War.
Wow.
And I think this creativity energy also saved him to be taken to the front because they saw, well, this is a creative person. They're pretty useless up there, where they need to shoot and to kill and so they sort of gave him other jobs.
And the world
So-
needs the other energy. The world needs the
we
other
need to distract
so
from
badly.
that. And that's
The
why I
playful
think it's
energy.
a call to all the artists and a call to all the people to be more creative instead of being miserable and depressed and negative,
Yeah.
is to invent something new, invent a game like Dwayne did. You know, we are hungry for that. Kids are hungry for that.
Yeah.
And you, Steve, you turned me on because I have puppets as well.
Ah,
Look, this is my
Mhm.
cat. This is my cat doll. And
So is that a finger? That's a finger puppet.
yes,
Mm.
You can
and
put
it's
the-
like
But
I
who is-
have 10 I made over the time. I can't put it on right now, but yeah, here it is.
Mhm.
So it looks very much like my cat, but I was also thinking to make little videos
Yeah.
with my cat, or
Yeah.
with and also use my puppets as energies, like star sign energies, you know, instead of
Mhm.
using it like in games.
Mhm.
In games like they did in former times, make the games different, make it like call one Uranus, call one Venus, you know,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
have them interact, like have
Yeah.
little videos taken and
See, look at
then
this. Look at everything's emerging.
yeah. So I got really turned on to do that.
Oh, and who's this? Who's
That
this
looks pretty
Dwayne?
monkeyish.
Who is it?
Yeah, but it's all felted. It's felted,
Mhm.
and it has all of the hair of my cat who died.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Hello, Steve. Hello, Steve.
Wow.
Hello. Hello. So, here comes the
Oh.
next one.
What's Dwayne? Who is this? Introduce. Who do you have, Dwayne?
this
Let's
is one of,
introduction.
you know, I'm forgetting his name, but Teresa did a whole series of mythological dolls.
Mhm.
Wonderful.
This is the only one left I have of the series.
Wow.
Yes, and this is archetypes, like
Absolutely.
Rick said.
And this,
And
it comes out of the East, I know that, but I'm forgetting his name right now. It's
Kind of looks like a Hanuman.
Yeah, there you go. I think it is. Yes, Hanuman.
Hanuman.
Looks Hanuman.
that is awesome. Right next to me, I'll show you mine.
All
And
right.
then he turns around,
Hello.
and if you turn him around, let's see, he's
Oh,
sad on one side
Oh, interesting.
and happy on the other
Oh.
side.
Oh,
And then-
wow. A Gemini.
And then here's my other one.
Mhm.
This is the cat that swallowed the canary.
Mhm.
You pull his-
He's keeping quiet. He's keeping
you
quiet.
pull it, unfold him. Let's see. And he has a yellow body. And then you take the head and you spin it around, you unfold it, and then he's
There's the canary.
Oh,
those
Yeah.
I have that in this, let's see. My
Oh, my goodness. Yes.
that's a little baby bed that my mother had all of her children in when we were young. And I have
Wow.
like from my grandchildren and then the children that when I was a teacher, these are all like dolls and figures that I would have to play and interact with them. But that's very much like Steve with his puppets. I did a lot of that type of interaction with the students that I worked with who weren't verbal, and just anything to capture their attention or to inspire reaction. And it's to me, it's amazing when you start working children, you start realizing their intelligence quickly
Yeah.
through their imaginations, and everybody needs imaginative time, especially when they're young. Anyway, those
Yeah,
are fun.
Yeah, I think this we all have kind of a shell shock from this COVID experience.
Yeah.
I don't know how you see it, Rick, but I feel that everybody is kind of in a kind of trauma, in a kind of shock. And then when we come with like puppets and archetypes and talk something else, it distracts from this shock. I mean, it could be a therapy in a way, you know,
Yeah.
because you disconnect from this shock we are under.
I think there's
and
a
that was on purpose.
I think there's a re-identification.
Yeah, well said, well said. Yeah.
People
And
are
that's
people kind of, well, they had to pull in. Now they're kind of almost emerging like out of as a butterfly
Yes.
to come back out
And
again.
when you pull in, you find your magic.
Mhm.
And that's what COVID, that period of time, forced on a lot of people.
Yeah.
Was it just forced them inward. And
Yeah.
then you can be, and sometimes you can be uncomfortable there because you're not used to being so deep within, but
Mhm.
then you find the best of who you are. That's
Yeah.
exactly where you find it. And
Yeah.
then you reemerge, like you said, like
Yeah.
a butterfly.
Yeah. They can examine and they can choose to change and do something differently.
And that's also real interesting for people our age, of Pluto in Leo.
Mhm.
You
We
think
have
of Leo is very active and alive and creative and expressive. And then you think of Pluto, and then our generation, we're getting older. We will never be younger again in one way. But then that's when we go inward, we reconnect with our child self. And that's hugely powerful for us as we move into our later years.
Yeah.
And we rediscover ourselves, and we get stronger with what we find.
Mhm. Yeah, I think our generation created the Renaissance fair.
Yeah, I think
Right.
so.
and the
A lot
rebel gene as well. You know, the rebel.
Mhm.
We have been never. The system didn't really affect us. We were sort of always still free, innocent. That was the Sabian symbol of innocence. You know, we are so you know, like, I don't mind if I eat a 5-star hotel or I eat in a hut with some poor people. I don't care, you know. For me, experience is the experience, you know. That's why we want to play with puppets, why we grew up with playing with sticks in the mud.
And
I
that's the
loved it.
simplicity, the sticks in the muds, total simplicity.
I loved it. That was my favorite.
People of
That's
our
why I love your
generation.
garden.
Yeah, and that's why I love people our age. I love Pluto in Leo people, because they represent individuals that somehow or other, what you just said, Barbara, were existed. We arrived connected to being children. We arrived as child spirits, and as older people, we are able to reconnect with the child spirit, and that's hugely powerful for each and every one of us. And I can see it through everything we've been saying.
Yeah, it's nice. It's nice.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, what Barbara was saying
also
about
gives
Barbara
another
was.
level.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry.
No, go ahead, Barbara.
Oh, right. It's another level also we have to give this message to the small ones, like Dwayne with his grandchildren, and doing these little videos and have a channel nowadays. You will see this will be beautiful, because these kids to go to sleep, they get devices now. They don't get grandparents anymore.
Mhm.
Or they're in long distance. But at
Yeah.
least, you know, it's like something they can relate to, or somehow the way you talk, or it's something different than war and war games and aggression. They can sort of disconnect because we are war children. I mean, I grew up after the war, and it was fantastic. I loved our garden. I mean, I was small, but there were always strawberries, there were carrots. I mean, you could go in the garden and eat.
Yeah.
You didn't go to the kitchen and eat. You ate in the garden.
And the best food was what you pulled right up out of the ground or off the plant. Just
Exactly. And we would go to other people's garden and steal some stuff which we like, or
you
get some
grow
apples.
and you grow more in your garden, and then you share it with other people.
Exactly.
You trade it out, you know, and everybody gets a better variety.
Yeah. Yeah, and you have also these beautiful fruits like the Nisperas. That was the beginning when we sort of connected in Facebook. The Nisperas, you know, these yellow ones.
Oh,
These yellow fruits, they are so gorgeous.
I have loquats, what I call loquats, and I also have figs, a big fig tree, several fig trees, and and pecan trees in my yard, and
that's it.
walnut trees too.
Yeah, it's wonderful, and you have that's why you have squirrels.
Right, squirrels, and possums, and raccoons, and a creek over my backyard, over my back fence. And my back fence opens up to one of the busiest. I'm just like a half a mile away from the busiest interstate in all of the United States, which with the direct line from
I-35.
I-35 and then to 183 to 290 to Houston. And so where I am is projected that within the next 6 to 10 years will be rapid transit from Austin to Dallas to San Antonio or to Houston, to be able to be in any one of those places like in 15 minutes just by jumping on one of these bullet trains. And so my little house is surrounded by all this technology that's just swallowing up and preparing itself for that futuristic environment. And so my house I'm working to keep it from crumbling apart, because I'm determined that I be here a long, long time and right along with it.
Wow.
I grew up in the country, and I miss being rural badly. And so this little place, it's just make believe rural. It's like it's just a small lot in the middle of the city, but it's enough with so many varieties of things to grow. Not enough light for vegetables very well, but that's all
also
right.
the animals are there. Like all the animals are there. Where they are coming from? How can they cross the highway? You know it's magical. It's magical.
It's a self-sustaining ecosystem, and that's what it's become. I have enough variety, a lot of ground growth, a lot of vines and things. Just exactly the things that the animals that are here need to survive. And so I kind of keep my eye on that and keep things water. It gets very dry and hot here in the summers, but I keep enough water going so that minimal, but enough to sustain this little ecosystem, little microcosm.
Also, what I feel about your place is the Carlos Castaneda's energy. Carlos Castaneda, he was from our generation. I mean, that was my Bible.
Here too. I read all of those. Actually,
I was this magic. I was living this magic. I loved it.
Yeah. The La Catalina, or as the sorceress, or Don Juan and all of that. The area I grew up in South Texas would be very much like from Brownsville up to Piedras Negras is up the Rio Grande River, and Piedras Negras, I believe that's exactly where this eclipse is going to be crossing, the central part of it.
Because there's also the pyramids, the round pyramids Dwayne was talking about the Montes, how they're called, the round pyramids, Dwayne?
Guachimontones.
Monte Montones.
Guachimontones.
Guachimontones.
Guachimontones, which is closer, over to Puerto Vallarta, not far from there.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's the same. So, huh?
All of that entire area is very magical, and the indigenous people from throughout Mexico, actually even in the Americas, are very connected. It's so funny that they're disregarded as much as they are, or as much power as they carry within their spirits, but they don't let it bother them. They just continue to exist.
Exactly. About also like there were these magicians, they were all like finding. I remember like finding your right spot when he had to find the perfect spot for him for this night.
Yes,
or when he was taken into El Campo somewhere in somewhere, and he had to deal with the wind, and the wind became a ghost. And then, or when I see a plastic bag now chased by the wind, I'm always seeing some animals in them, because there are spirits which are sort of using form to move. Sometimes they look like animals, like cats or dogs or whatsoever. And that was also in Carlos Castaneda's book, that spirit can take any kind of form. And we learned so much. I mean, that was more important for me than anything, because
me too,
I sort of did let it in.
Where I'm sitting right now, exactly, is my power spot in this house on this lot. And people have asked me, well, what are you going to be doing, or where do you want to go to watch the eclipse? And I want to be sitting right exactly where I am. Right. Well, actually, I'll open up the curtains, or I'll probably go outside into the yard. But it's my power spot. And we get those little places, and you can feel it within you magically when not only your power spot, but like the power within your spirit with the puppets. All of that is connecting with those energies that represent where your powers exist. And Carlos Castaneda's stuff always revolved around one of my favorite of his. Well, it was Don Juan. Always said his death is always but an arm's length away. That was one of the
interesting. It's so interesting. Watching into the, when they were driving in the car, in the back mirrors, to look in the back mirrors, they saw some and he said, no, don't look, because that's not cool, because you attract kind of
you don't, it's reflecting, you're getting the reflection. You don't want to see, you want to look it straight on. You don't want to see the mirror image of it.
It was so cool.
Yeah.
And your place is that still, it represent, maybe that's also connected to our Pluto energy. Maybe that's how Pluto protected us from being disturbed in our innocence, or taken out of it, because these books must have been placed into our way as well. We didn't get the Bible pushed onto us, because who has a rebel gene in them will not even look at it. It doesn't resonate. We don't resonate with that kind of thing.
The other thing that's coming, that's interesting, that will correspond to the eclipse on the 8th of April, is that it will be exactly, the sun and the moon will be conjunct it'll be the new moon in Aries, and the Earth blocking, no, the moon coming between the sun and the Earth, blocking the sun's light, but that will be at the exact same degree of Chiron, and Chiron
Wow.
would represent the wounded healer.
Wow.
And it's interesting to see where Chiron in our charts might be
Mhm.
too. For me, it's in my Chiron is in my third house of communication, and I think that as a child, being born with that innocence and that sense of play, and that arriving here with so much awareness of wonder, and then somehow or other feeling that I was born into a world that was determined to silence it, or to disregard it, or to kind of push it aside, or encourage it to be something different or something more conventional.
Mhm.
And I think that when it came to religion, and I feel that the people that I love the most of our generation are those individuals that didn't lose, that remained connected to their spirits and didn't get indoctrinated towards being more conventional.
Right, right. Yeah, and then the Carlos Castañedas, he was also a teacher, you know, and he was like always saying, why do you guys, you white people, you don't see that, and you have a blockage because you're so mental, you're so in your mind that you don't see the beautiful things, like which are fun, to do magic, to disappear in another world. Or he could change, all of a sudden he was sitting somewhere on top of the river, laughing his head off or something, just for the fun of it, but also powerful.
You have to open yourself up to the power that you possess within yourself. And the more open, the more you quiet to the outer world's limitations, the more you open up to the power of what exists within. And it's there for everyone if they can open to it.
And also, like, you're working with the kids who were handicapped, who were sort of like discarded from society, that you had to work with them. That was your field. That was your field because you were able to touch into other realms. You were able to connect without speaking, like, telepathically you would talk to them, you wouldn't even, you were able to see and expand the communication. Like you said, you have the gift of communication, but also not only verbally, you also like just on a psyche.
It also is something that I happened into it because when I went to school, I majored in English and art to be a high school teacher. And then when I finished, the Vietnam War was happening, and I had been drafted, and I had to do service, and I was not going to I didn't consider my service to be killing anybody. And so I had to go before the draft boards to get certified as a conscientious objector. And that was a very complicated situation. Not many people were able to do that in South Texas, where it was so conservative. But I got it together and became a conscientious objector. Then they said, okay, now you have to go find work that will qualify. And that's when I went from South Texas to Austin, and actually never dreamed of working with people with disabilities. But at that time, I was 20 years old and started working at Austin State School with rubella children that had blindness in youth. And then did that for my service work and then discovered but at that point I also was married at 17 and had my first, I became a parent at 18, and their mother had a lot of problems, and I realized that it was totally on me to be responsible. And so that I'd found myself as that my strength was nurturance. My strength was being responsible, was being playful, was being caring of children. And so when I had that already and then stumbled into a job that allowed me to work with children, I realized, well, I'm better at that than anything that I could have gone to college for. And so I stayed with that and increased my learning in behalf of being a teacher, but realizing that nurturing children was my cup of tea. And that would be my right-brained self connected to my to the feminine energies within, but finding strength in providing strength in being that for people that needed it.
Yeah.
Just stumbling. I stumbled into it like Steve had clips in Costa Rica.
Yeah.
Speaking of Steve and Sophia, we've hardly heard a word from you tonight.
No, I'm enjoying to listening. I'm just amazed. The synchronicities, like almost like a tail going through.
You have to come closer to the microphone. I can hardly hear you.
Oh, yeah. I am amazed to listen the tail which going into the synchronicity happening between us, British Columbia and Austin and
Calgary.
and it's just a magic. I'm just in awe of magic.
How cool.
The synchronicities are amazing and they're all around us. And again, too, we have to know that to even notice it, or else we pass right by it and don't even see it. If it's in our mind that those things are there, then we see them wherever we go.
So here's one for you guys. From my trip to Calgary, I'm aware that the odometer is going to change to 333,333. Wow. So as I'm approaching Calgary, it's getting time for gas. I pull into Canmore, into the service station, and realize that I am right within range, like within 5 kilometers of the full threes. And they're up in the mountains are the three sisters.
All the threes.
I got it on my camera. I caught the 333 right to the. So.
Yeah.
And 3 is a communicative number, would be like communication and mind, mental processing, communicative number.
Yeah,
333. That's a lot of miles.
Toyota Camry.
Toyota Camry. Wow.
Yeah, I know a guy in Cache Creek who had one, and he had, I think, 450,000 K, and then he hit a moose on the road, and that totally. But it was still going strong.
Wow.
But that is just, I've never heard of even 333,000 miles on but I would believe it with the Toyota Camry. You must have changed the oil every time you needed to.
Very, very religious about that.
That's good. They'll last forever if you do that.
Change the alternator, change the, this, that. You do need to do that, but.
So that was right while you were as you were arriving.
Yeah, and there's the three sisters, which I grew up with. I mean, that was one of the mountain ranges or features that was always. There's the three sisters.
Yeah. That's so prominent. Perfect. So prominent in Canmore.
Yeah.
Now, Joan hasn't said a whole lot either. And
yeah.
So it's Joanne's turn.
Joanne.
No pressure whatsoever.
No.
Well, I'm just I'm just enjoying sort of being with the whole as Sophie said, sort of the flow of this. Like there was nothing set for what this Zoom was going to be. There was no umbrella or no theme, and so it's just I've enjoyed how it's just the energy just pops up, and people, it flows, and then the next person and the sharing, and so it's yeah, it's I really what I did tap into a couple of things that were related. The first question I would ask is, what is the Spanish name of like your oasis? Your, what did you say, Rick? What's that the Spanish name for that?
Solar is what I would call solar.
Solad. Solad.
Yes. SOLAR, like solar.
SOLAR.
Uh-huh.
AD.
Solar, like solar.
Oh yeah,
Solar.
okay.
You know, another
Yep,
very
and-
interesting,
and-
another real interesting Spanish word to me that I just resonate to a lot is silvestre, SYLVESTRE. And that would
Tree.
relate like to a wild creature, sort of like a deer that, you know, if you get close to a silvestre, you have to be very gentle of spirit. You can't push it, or they'll dart, you'll scare them away. So it's a very special quality, especially between humans and other animals, would be for the human to be of gentle enough nature that they can, you know, just stand there with their hand open and the deer come eat out of their hand, or squirrel, or an anole, or whatever. But you know, but that silvestre is a quality, and some humans have that same quality, and that's what I would see between when I think of really sensitive humans. They so appreciate each other, but at the same time, they would just, like at the blink of an eye, like a bird flying, they'd disappear in a second as soon as the energy wasn't right. And so gentle people necessitate gentle treatment, or else it's you know, they're wasting their energy otherwise. And so it's very, silvestre is an important Spanish word to think.
I think Saint Francis had that.
Yeah. And he's one of my favorite. I have pictures of him in my house.
Yeah, and we have also, like Rick, you can, there's also a video which Steve was conducting, and he talks about this because his father made this painting of that saint. So
I painted that for I painted it for my dad.
Okay, and tell us
You
about
painted
it. Tell me about it.
Well, really, the magic was when we were traveling along the Sierra Nevada in California, and we stopped on Highway 49 at a nice little coffee place. It was covered in grape vines and outdoor cafe. So Sophia and I were sitting at a table next to like a cedar rail fence, and we were having a coffee and a pastry, and we were sharing Wayne Dyer's book and reading about the prayer of Saint Francis. And we were sharing that, and we were reading the prayer and reading what Wayne Dyer's thoughts were on it. And all of a sudden, this big delivery truck pulls up right next to us, and we look up, and on the side of the truck it says Francis Distributing.
Oh wow. Oh wow.
I love it.
Yeah, we said, oh wow. Said, okay. So that was a real connection to St. Francis. And then I grew up with that statue in the backyard, and that was my parents' beautiful garden in Santa Barbara. And that was the real connection that I had growing up in the Catholic Church until I rebelled at 12. And but always connected with St. Francis, and that I honor my mom and dad in that. So I did a painting for my dad of St. Francis, And um,
Wow.
yeah, it was just like, yeah. And then we went to 2019. We went to, before COVID, we went to Assisi in Italy,
Oh, wow.
and walked through the town and went to the church, which is now it's a cathedral, and they've built the cathedral over top of the church that St. Francis built.
Wow.
Wow.
Now I can see to preserve it, but it also has a very strange message, like his simplicity, but this huge, gigantic cathedral built
Yeah.
over top of it. And so that was quite
Yeah.
interesting to go
The
visit
contrast
that.
of the
Right.
the hugeness with his simplicity.
Yeah.
And
But then it was
you know,
fascinating. We walked the hills through the olive groves, and we were on our way up just to visit. And all of a sudden, this guy veers off the road, drives through the mud into the olive grove, and he's stuck. And he's right at the same level as we are at on the road. And I go, what did this guy do? What? And we look, and he's a monk. He's in his he's a Franciscan monk,
wow,
and he's stuck in the mud.
that's interesting. That's
So I said,
interesting.
he rolls down his window and he's scratching his head, and I said, he's trying to rev up. I said, just stop for a minute. I said, what you need to do is back down and really turn the wheel back down,
Instead of going.
turn the wheel so that you're pointing down the hill. Because I mean, I lived in Calgary and had to get unstuck a lot of times in different situations. And it felt like I was talking to some guy stuck in the snow. But here the guy's stuck in the mud in the olive grove.
For quicksand, the more you struggle, the stucker you get.
So then he makes that maneuver, and we cheer him. And then it was like, now I said, you just need to floor it and get out of that and just go and pop up onto the road. He says, really? I said, yeah, you kind of got to gun it. And I'm talking to this guy, you know, he's an Italian, but we're kind of going, you know. So then he does a maneuver, and Sophia and I are on the sidelines, like going, go, 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 and yelling in a CC, go, go, go. And he goes down and he pops up, and he gets out of the car. He just leaves the car there, and he starts running because he's late for some meeting of some sort. Running in his robe, and then he's waving at us on the way by. And so we helped rescue a monk in Assisi.
That's a cool story.
Yeah, it was very
That
fun.
is. And such a powerful place to go.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and then to experience the contrast of the huge cathedral and the individual being celebrated or remembered.
Yeah.
And I always kept the prayer up in my classroom as long as I can remember, but always thinking, you know, if I had a wish to myself in terms of a prayer, would be to make me an instrument of thy peace. That sense of being a finely tuned instrument, especially when working with children who are damaged and who you know can't access the world, whose sensory, you know, it's all of that, just myself, and then not wanting to impose my will upon those children, but instead to perceive myself as a finely tuned instrument that could be receptive to their callings, to their needs, so that I could be just like an extension, their hands, their eyes, their arms, or whatever, to help bring them experience. And that I just found absolute joy and actually wholeness of self through all that. And as in my old age now, I'm very much like a hermit. I don't know people like I'm speaking with between each of you guys. And here, kind of, but I've lost, it's just like I'm in my own little world. And it's been very, very precious to spend a little time like this today with you guys. More than I could start to say. Very, very dear. But that's
thank you
after many years. I didn't think I was going to get through. I thought, I finally saw Dwayne earlier, and then I thought, but I don't have any sound. And then Joanne showed up, well, a little bit later with some sound, and here we all are, and it's been absolutely joyous.
Absolutely.
And it's very neat to think that we just passed this lunar eclipse and are on our way to the pairing. It's pairing with the solar eclipse that's coming in 2 weeks, and the energies that opens, hopefully the joys that we're each finding within ourselves would represent that new beginning in Aries, the Libra Aries balance, the us that we were as children, that the children of our generation were born as, and the we that's emerging in the middle of this world with war and sadness and whatever, but we can overlook that, and with the power of our joy, that's what the Aries, the light going out, the rebooting of the sun's light, when that occurs, hopefully will bring us each more powerfully into that energy of our selves that we were born with as children, that we carry here today. That's what I think. I like to see that is what's going on with these eclipses.
Thank you so much for your words. Inspired.
Yeah.
And
you too, all of you.
Before we close out, I just wanted to point out that next new moon will be in 5 Ben Skywalker.
Oh, so it's Ben.
Oh,
wow.
So we're
Super.
seeing it from here, and that's what we're moving into. So
that's
neat.
neat.
I just wanted to say on that 4 ebb that we're in presently, that 4 is, when I saw Barbara and Rick making this connection, it like 4 is foundation, and I'm just feeling that in this moon that I've been creating the foundation with the puppets and how to go about it, and it just feels like it's emerging in this moon. One closing thought too is that when we lived in Calgary, Patch Adams came to Calgary and did a presentation, and how he was talking how he took the clowns and groups of clowns to the war zones and changed that energy for the children. So that's really been coming up for me as we've been talking about that today, and Rick's work and everybody's connection with puppets and
joy.
and the joy, bringing the joy forward. And just one out of curiosity, Rick, were you given a draft number?
I think it was 79.
79. Okay, just curious.
Yeah.
And I was the last year of the draft, and I was 357. So there were only a few little pills left in the bingo jar when they pulled mine. But
my friend,
I'm so glad you did this conscientious objector. My compass was headed north, and I wasn't going no matter what. So.
Well, and I was here too. I was prepared to go to Canada. My father had been born there. His mother was born there, and I knew that was an option. But I had my first child was born when I was 18, and the second child when I first came to Austin after my first year as a conscientious objector was when my second daughter was born. But and then I've
So you
been
had family,
single
there, family.
Well, I do, and it all came. I was married between 17 and 22, and I've been single ever since for the last more than 50 years. It's sort of like I got my family, you know, and I found my calling as a, you know, the parental instincts.
Right.
But at the same time, I didn't have to leave, and was able to serve. Even living here in Texas, I find in many ways, I just have to separate myself from the politics, from a lot of sad realities at the border, all kinds of things, you know. But I truly believe that that there's huge power in the kinds of energies we're sharing with each other, and that is so I mean that it's more potent than anything else. And I also don't mind being in the middle, being the odd person out in a state like Texas, just because anywhere like that needs the other example alive and present. And so as long as we can be that other example wherever we go, that's awesome. That's our gift to the world.
Yep. Thank you.
I loved I love the toys and the puppets and our connection to our imagination, our imaginative spirits. That's been so beautiful.
Likewise.
Thank you.
And
so much.
And you know, Joanne, because you're quiet, your face isn't showing up here a lot. But at the same time, every time it shows up, the joy of you show so much joy. And I feel that with all of us. I'm seeing joy in each face. That on my phone, I'm only getting one set at a time. But at the same time, I see joy and beauty in each one. It sure does feel good.
And I wanted to go back to that solar. I'm not saying it right, but I just want to say solarad or the because Dwayne mentioned solar. Because when
just like solar.
Yes, solar with an anyways.
It's spelled the same as solar.
Solar, yeah. I wanted to, because it really resonated with me. And then when Dwayne brought back that, when he returned from Calgary to his place, it was like, and to me, that's what I'm feeling too. Like each and every one of us, while talking about myself, like I identified with the oasis within, like I'm in the city, and oasis within sky, scrapers and whatnot. But what I realized is that really more and more, I'm not necessarily physically, like Dwayne's physical environment is really added to his internal environment, is extended out into the physical. I can feel that in his space. And for me, that's what I want to go back to or hold from today, is that solar inner, hold that space. This is my oasis. This is, my center. This is,
The heart.
Your personal sanctuary. The greatest place you can be is right within your being.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Love you guys.
Yeah, thank you all.
Love you guys too.
Yeah.
Love you. Have a good
Bye. See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Ciao, Ricky.
To the eclipses we go.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
We go
Bye.
through. We go through.
Bye.
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 Bye.